Milk is an amazing food. You seemingly can't throw it away. Even when it's bad, it turns into something else good, like butter, yogurt, sour cream, and of course, here on the campus of Clemson University, it's cheese. This is what happens when milk goes very, very bad in the very best of ways. Come on, let me take you where the food comes from. So just yesterday, we were at Hickory Hill Milk. You saw the amazing work that the Dorn family is doing there. We actually followed that milk up the road just a little bit to Clemson University, where we are here making famous Clemson blue cheese. This process has already been going on for about an hour, and it's not quite 5 a.m. yet, so cheese wakes up early, in case you were ever wondering. This is Anthony Pounder. He is the master cheesemaker here at Clemson. Anthony, right now, we're just waiting for this vat of milk from Hickory Hill to come up to the temperature for you to start working with it to make this famous Clemson blue cheese. How big is this vat? How much milk?
600 gallons.
600 gallons. How much cheese is this gonna make?
For today, it should make close to 500 pounds.
500 pounds, and this is a process that happens how often a week here at Clemson?
Twice a week on a Tuesday and Thursday.
So this has been going about an hour now, and these paddles are stirring. You started adding ingredients. Let's talk about what you were putting in. What goes in first?
Once my temperature goes from, say, 40 degrees, I raise it to 72, and I add my freeze-dried cheese culture. Once we've added that culture, then we add the Rutherford mold, the penicillin mold. And then once we get the mold in the cheese, we raise the temperature again, and then we add rennet, which the rennet causes this whole vat to set up like a bowl full of Jell-O.
Mm-hmm.
It coagulates it, and it makes it solid.
All right, this has been heating up for about an hour and 10 minutes. A lot of the ingredients are in. Anthony's taking another temperature check now. You're starting to smell the fragrant aroma. Right now, what you're smelling most is the sweetness of this whole milk. Beautiful fresh milk. At this point, we're just waiting on the cheese. All right, we're coming right up on 90 degrees. Time for the next step.
What I'm adding now is rennet.
Now that's the one we all know, that's rennet, that's an enzyme. We all understand that's what they teach us in grade school. That's what you add to milk to make it turn into cheese.
Yes, sir.
And there's other components, other things that you add, I guess as you're making different kind of cheeses, but all you've ever had to worry about was blue cheese.
Yes, sir.
And you're following a recipe that they set down in the 1940s. Has it changed at all? Or?
It has changed a little bit, because back when I first started, we was using cheese that had been pasteurized and homogenized. Right. And then when we went to Watson Dorn's milk, he doesn't homogenize his milk. Right. It's just a low temperature pasteurization. So it did change to some degree, not much.
This morning is moving at such a pace, I have no idea what's about to happen next, but something tells me Anthony's got it figured out over here. So right now, this is just a big vat of milk. You watched all the things that he stirred into it. It is still completely in liquid form. If I scoop my hands in there right now, number one, Anthony would knock me sideways. But number two, you would see liquid milk pouring out of my hands. Hard to believe, in about an hour, we're gonna be standing here in front of the biggest brick of cheese I've ever seen in my life. All right, not only is it not yet 6 o'clock in the morning, now I'm freezing too. We are in the cheese cave at Clemson. As you can tell, this is Crosby Sackett. He's here to eventually become what Anthony is, but in a different capacity. Crosby, let's talk about your cheese world.
Oh yeah. So I initially got into cheese because I wanted to go on really interesting dates. And she's seems like a really easy way.
How does that factor in? Are girls impressed with cheese, or?
It always worked for me.
Now, when we say monger, people might not know that name, but those are ancient titles like fishmonger, cheesemonger.
Yep.
Those were the specialists who knew if you wanted the specific kind of fish or wanted to know what kind of fish, you go to the fishmonger.
Yep.
You wanted to talk about cheese, you went to the cheesemonger. And here, even in the 21st century, we still have cheesemongers, and they're still an important thing.
Absolutely.
So, what brought you to Clemson?
The legacy of the program.
Okay.
The branding is unparalleled, especially if you're in South Carolina. You've heard about Clemson blue cheese. Especially as a mongerer, I heard about it all the time.
So you already knew it was.
I knew it was here.
Kind of famous on your radar already.
Absolutely. And it was really awesome too to be able to experience a production facility where we specialized in one product and did that one product exceedingly well.
So how close are these to being ready to package and go?
I'd say this is about, just kidding, 3 months.
The cheese whisperer. So this is about 3 months in?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
it's getting close.
It's about 3 months left to go. So we're gonna
about
age
3 months left to go.
So they about 4 months minimum, but 6 months is really where you want to be before we start cutting into
Right.
it.
So, and you can see already the speckles
Yep.
of this mold, and that's just shot through this whole wheel of cheese, right?
Exactly. That's those tunnels that we spike into it to allow oxygen to get into
Which
it.
again is why they don't press the cheese like you do with a cheddar.
Correct.
You want to leave that room for that beneficial mold to grow.
The industry term is mechanical openings.
As gross as it sounds and looks, and the first time you see it when you're a kid, you go, "This cheese is ruined." It's just ruined in the very best way.
Exactly.
Okay, believe it or not, 2.5 hours ago, this was our vat of milk. Now, it is starting to set up really kind of like a bowl full of Jell-O, Crosby.
That's right.
So how do you know that this is ready and it's time? You got the cutters out, you've got the knives, you're ready to go.
Yep.
How do we know it's ready? What's the test?
Time is the first indicator,
Okay.
and then the second indicator is the clean break test.
Clean break test.
Clean break.
All right, so it's what, just a couple of fingers
couple
in?
fingers
Oh,
in, then
my.
use your thumb to just break that surface tension, and then just curl your fingers straight up towards that break. If
Oh,
it
and
breaks
it's
nice and smooth.
Splits, just like
Yep.
a yogurt, like a something, if you're ever pulling that out of the bucket.
And you see
and it
that
just
curd
breaks.
formation.
And it's still warm.
Yeah.
It feels very inviting.
It maintains its temperature pretty well.
So we could just hop right in and take a soak.
It's hard to resist that temptation.
The folks at home would not appreciate that. Now this is the first cut.
Yep.
I'm gonna step back out of the way.
So we are going to form the curds right now, and the point is to try to make them as uniform as possible so that they release the same amount of whey to create as uniform of a starting material for the formation of the cheese wheels. It's all about surface area.
All right, so we've just cut the cheese. Maybe I should rephrase that. Anyway, the cheese has just been cut. It's not getting any better, is it? We got about 5 to 7 minutes while these little curds that were formed in the cutting process solidify a little more. If you drop it right now, it just goes right back to milk. That's not gonna do anybody any good. So 5 to 7 minutes. Seemingly there's a lot of hurry up and wait in making cheese. Am I feeling increasing resistance?
You are.
Okay. Wow, and there's a big blob trying to form in this corner. Stop that.
Once the cheese stabilizes and we hit our time and temperature targets, we are going to drop about 2/3 of the way out of this vat prior to the scooping.
Okay. There was a professor here who was interested in making cheese. There was an old abandoned tunnel project that had started to connect Clemson, South Carolina was somewhere.
Knoxville, I believe.
Knoxville.
Yeah.
That was abandoned.
Correct.
There was a 2-mile tunnel, a cave underground.
Pretty ideal.
The moisture content, the temperature was perfect for making blue cheese. And for the first several years of this program, all of this cheese was actually cured and aged in that tunnel.
That is correct. So we might be good to let it rest for a few minutes, and then at this point, you know, in 10 minutes we can come back, recheck the corners and recheck the paddles, but it should be pretty stabilized at this point.
Now the agitators go off, the paddles come out.
I'm gonna leave the agitators on, I'm
Okay.
gonna turn them up just a little bit longer, and we're just gonna let it do its thing.
Anthony Pounders, you are the cheese master. You are the master cheese maker here at Clemson University. You actually come by it kind of honest. You're just a country boy from up the road a little bit from here, right?
Yes, sir.
In '96 is when you got the call and somebody said, hey Anthony, why don't you come make this cheese?
That's correct.
Did you know how to make cheese
No,
then?
sir. I'm gonna be honest with you. At that point in time in my life, I could barely boil an egg.
You can milk cows.
Yeah, I could milk
You
some
can milk
cows.
cows,
Right. So I came over and started making cheese. Well, when I started making cheese, Airmark run this blue cheese.
Right, the big distributor. You
Yeah.
see them at stadiums
Well,
and everywhere else.
I mean, they just handed me the recipe and said, here. So I made 20 lots of cheese, and I couldn't get it right. And so I told Airmark, I mean, this is true. I told Airmark, I got more pride than y'all have money. I said, I can't get this product right. I said, will you let me go talk to Mr. Whitmire and see if he will come back and teach me how to do this
Sure.
properly? And they said, well, if you can get him to come back, then we'll let him come back and teach you. So I looked Mr. Whitmire up, found out where he lived, and went and knocked on his door, told him who I was and what I wanted to do. And he said, well, he says, I don't know you from Adam. He says, but if you're man enough to come to my door and ask me for help, then you're the man for the job.
Let's talk about some of the different packaging. This is the Clemson blue cheese lineup right here, right down to and including the Taste of Clemson Blue Cheese cookbook. I'm sure that's available online and,
Yes, sir.
and in finer bookstores everywhere. But this cheese, we're showing people this process. We're talking about how amazing and how wonderful it is. At some point, we're going to eat some, and they'll get to see the joy on our faces when we do so, but they won't be able to taste it through the screen. How can they get their hands on some of this cheese, Anthony?
They can go online at clemsonbluecheese.com
Okay.
and place their order, and we ship it overnight. And right now, we usually have ground shipping, but that's only for in-state customers.
Right.
But right now, for this time of year, the hot weather just doesn't.
Doesn't really pan out that
Right.
well for shipping blue cheese.
Right.
I can appreciate that. I think it's about time for us to get somewhere where we finally get to get a bite of it somewhere. But we got a little more work to do yet.
Yeah.
Coming up next, we're gonna go see our big vat of cheese that we've now cut and stirred. When we last left it, we saw all of the beautiful yellow liquid coming onto the top and the curds were forming. When we go back in there, what are we gonna see?
You're going to see how the curds will be cooked to completion.
Okay.
And then we're going to take those curds and put them in the hoops. And then once we get done hooping them, we will let them set overnight.
And then a few months later, after careful care and storage, they'll come out looking like that.
Yes, sir.
All right, let's go see what's next.
All righty.
All right. This is what it's all turned into. All of these beautiful little pearls of cheese that in just a few months is going to be amazing on some crackers or a little French bread. About football season, we'll probably be enjoying that, right? Towards the end of the season?
Everybody ready? Let's show them how it's done.
Oh my God, look at this. They're not taking their time. They're moving as pretty quickly as they can over
Yeah, so they're moving really quickly to maintain as much of that internal temperature as possible.
Okay.
Because that kind of helps it knit.
All right, we're getting close to the bottom of this tank, Crosby. What comes next?
Cleaning.
Cleaning.
You know, the joke in the industry is that cheese making is 90% cleaning.
Now that's funny, but it's only funny because it's true.
Absolutely.
People don't really understand. Everybody at home always worries, how do they keep me safe? How do they keep my food safe? Food safety is absolutely top of mind every step of the process.
100%. When it comes to before we have milk in the tank, before we have milk in the hoops, on days where there's not even food in this facility, we're keeping it spotless, we're deep cleaning, and it's the top priority. Changing gloves, and any time that there could potentially be a cross-contaminant, we throw everything out. We don't take any chances. So the first stop, once the wheels have formed and we take them out of their hoops, we salt them. Harder cheeses you put in the brine tank, but with softer cheeses with a natural rind, we're surface salting them. And so that kind of has a 7-day curing period. After that, we put it in the bluing cave where it kind of blooms from the inside out. Now, you don't want it to continually blue from the inside. You want to stop it at some point. And that's why we bring it into this cave simulated environment.
And the cool is what's going to stop that mold growth process.
Yep. So if you leave blue on the counter, you'll probably see that
it eventually just turns into a pile of mold.
Exactly.
And you don't want all the cheese gone in that.
It's a balance.
Yeah. Obviously, a long time ago, somebody put some cheese up and they went to check it later and they went, oh no, something terrible has happened.
So the romantic story was that there was like a shepherd who was watching the caves and who had to go on a date, and he left his bread in the cave, and when he came back, the rye bread mold had contaminated the cheese, but they decided that it was a good product. Now that's the story. It's contested, but at least it's a romantic story.
Let's stick with that.
Let's
I
go
like
with
it.
it.
We'll
Yeah.
go with that. Whatever it was, some happy accident,
Yes.
as is so often the case in our food world, something went wrong that turned out to be oh so right.
Oh yeah.
All right, it is now a little after 9 a.m. The cheese is made. It's going to cure overnight, and then it'll be packaged, it'll go. So we thought this would be a good chance to come into the classroom. The employees of the Clemson Blue Cheese program are Clemson students themselves. We have.
My name is Kinley Kaufman. I'm a senior industrial engineering major.
And.
My name is Elise Corbin. I am a master's student in biochemistry.
In biochemistry?
Yes.
How did you wind up working in the cheese program here, and how long have you been doing it?
My dad told me about Clemson and the blue cheese, and he was really interested in the blue cheese, and when I found out they were hiring, I decided I wanted to go try out, and they let me in. So I thought it looked fun, and I asked my mom, and she's the one who told me that Dad talked about blue cheese all the time.
Oh, wow.
I'm here at Clemson to honor my dad in general, but I just thought it would look fun, and when I got in, I was like, man, this is fun, so I stayed. It's a lot of fun to make cheese and package and see the whole process.
Now,
So.
sadly, you lost your father not too long ago.
Yeah, it's been 2 years now, but I feel like he's a part of me here.
Now, the one thing that you've got to be able to do and not mind, and this is kind of rare for most college students I've known, you punch the clock at 6 a.m. and the cheese is not going to wait if you're late.
Yes.
Was that an adjustment, or are you naturally an early riser?
Personally, I'm naturally an early riser.
Okay.
So I actually like the fact that I come and work before my classes even start. And I am done with my day when my classes end, whether it be, lunchtime or 4 o'clock. I don't have to worry about a job after that. I've already done.
Do either of you see cheese being part of your future, or is this just been a cool, fun job while you're in school?
For me, it's been a learning experience. Industrial engineering has a lot to do with supply chain and production planning and things like that. So I've really seen that with some of our bigger grocery orders that we have to, produce the cheese ahead of time and know what they're going to order so that we can have it ready when the order comes. So that's been a learning curve for me. You know, I always just kind of thought it's because what Anthony says, but I've learned there really is a method to the madness of planning behind all that we make.
Right.
So it's interesting because all of the students who do work here, various majors. So it's fun to meet people on campus that go to your school that you wouldn't meet in the classroom, because our classes are very specified in college for your major. Like I would have never met Elise if I didn't work here.
Now here it is, the finished product. You can see these blue mold veins running through here. Now this is not the cheese that we made this morning. This is what that cheese aspires to be and will be in a few months. You know what I always say, the proof is in the pudding. So, sharp and tangy, but not overwhelming with a creaminess you don't usually find in blue cheese. It's always surprising what's around the next corner when we ride. A few years ago, I'd never heard of Clemson blue cheese. It got on my radar 4 or 5 years ago. It took me a little time to get over here and tell the story. I'm glad I did. That's why we keep looking under every rock and around every corner to find out what's coming next out here, where the food comes from.